What's up, YouTubers? It's Ernie, Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. So the last time that we were here, at least as far as anything Spider-Man related goes, not including Venom, we were talking about Amazing Spider-Man, the story arc going down swinging that featured the new transformation of Norman Osborn into the Red Goblin. Now that the Red Goblin has been unleashed, we know how he got here. Let's get into the finale of going down swinging, which culminates in Amazing Spider-Man number 800. But before we get started, if this is your first time checking out my channel and you want to see more awesome videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click, click. Okay, so last time we left off, Spider-Man and his amazing friends got bodied by Stormin' Norman Osborn's newly christened Red Goblin persona, a Daywalker amalgam of Green Goblin and the Carnage symbiote. All the strengths, none of the weaknesses. Flash Thompson tries to get back in the fight, but this time Spider-Man feels the only way he's going to get the job done is letting the amazing friends take a much needed powder while he goes and whips some ass, because even in defeat, Flash Thompson showed Spidey a weakness in Red Goblin's armor. Spidey goes after Red Goblin, who's been on a little killing spree to pass the time between dragging Spidey's amazing friends and even going on as far as to enjoy some Joker gimmickry here and there. But now that Spidey has come to fight, he done gone and broke the deal and all bets are off as far as Norman Osborn is concerned. Spidey thinks Osborn means to kill him and claims that Harry, Liz, and Normie Osborn should have been off limits. He should not have gone after them. Something Osborn feels couldn't have been further from the truth if it tried. No, that is Osborn's family. Spidey's family is Aunt May, Mary Jane. Osborn has something way better in mind, and with Spider-Man out of the way, he's gonna go pay MJ a visit to catch up on old times. Something you have to wonder too is, where the hell has little Normie Osborn been lately? Shouldn't he be with his Crimson Pop Pop? Well, he's gone to pay Aunt May a visit, and Spidey doesn't know yet. Fortunately for less old-looking, more modern grandmother-appearing Aunt May, hey Auntie, Dr. Octopus has come to save that ass. For some of you who may be going, what? This should really be no surprise. Dr. Octopus has long been connected to Aunt May. This goes back as far as 1963 in Amazing Spider-Man number 114. Their will they won't they chemistry has been teased for decades, and this is Otto, young Otto at that, coming to save the woman he loves. He's putting them hands on Normie, who has now begun declaring himself the Goblin Child, and somehow through this he found the same strength that T'Challa did to beat M'Baku on Challenge Day. 3J! 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 J. Jonah Jameson has slid into the ring, swinging chairs every which way but loose. Not really, he's remote piloting a Spider Slayer machine that his wife, Marla, had left behind after she died. But still, he's coming in swinging, and these hands don't have any name on them. They're for everyone, including Dr. Octopus. Speaking of 3J, he's gotten wind that Red Goblin is going to go after MJ. Before he went out to go save Aunt May, he wanted to make things right for the old webhead for giving up his secret identity to Norman Osborn. He figures that to stop a symbiote, you need to use a symbiote. So he hits up the only symbiote-wielding lethal protector that he knows, Eddie Brock, tracking him down thanks to Brock using the same pictures of Spider-Man gimmick that Peter Parker always used, only he's showing pictures of Venom. He gets Eddie on board to save MJ. Fortunately for MJ, Eddie likes protecting people. He busts into Stark Tower, and MJ, no longer a damsel in distress, is ready for him and unleashes a fire trap. Damn, MJ. Unfortunately, she softened him up for the old Red Goblin to come in and beat the brakes off of Venom. When Spider-Man shows up, the odds are evened up, especially when MJ busts out a repulsor glove. But Red Goblin still gets his shots in. Several symbiote barbs aim directly at MJ, taking her down before gloating that Aunt May is probably already dead by now, and deucing out on his own sweet Hellfire Red Goblin glider. trademarked. Spider-Man can't give chase though, because he took a nasty chomp on the web shooter from Norman Osborn. This is when Eddie comes up with a capital idea. Take the symbiote. You're probably thinking, why doesn't Eddie just go with him? Well, this is a more personal fight. Plus, between Eddie getting damn near burned to death and him being personally weakened as a result of this, and Eddie feels that as Venom he was able to go toe-to-toe with the Red Goblin. However, Spider-Man knows Osborn better than anyone, and with Spider-Man actually having powers without the suit, and technically Eddie's nothing without the suit, and the suit enhances whatever the host is capable of. So Spider-Man would be the more powerful option on his own using the symbiote than Eddie would be, more or less. Even MJ, who hates Venom, is on board with this. She hates that symbiote more than just about anything else on Earth, and she even tells Peter Parker to put the damn suit on. And Spidey does. And for the first time in decades, he's truly back in black. By the time Spidey makes it to Aunt May's, Red Goblin is already leaving the scene with Goblin Child in tow. Spidey Venom finds a busted Spider Slayer with 3J's face on the monitor, and he's even more pissed at 3J than he was in the first place. He finds Aunt May and Otto. Otto took the same barbs that MJ did, only he got pin-cushioned. A shot he took for Aunt May. Spider-Man is absolutely gobsmacked by this. Never in a million years would he ever have imagined this happening. Dr. Octopus saving his Aunt May. And she says it best, anyone can be a hero. Something Spider-Man had taught her all these years, because remember, she doesn't know the truth. And she used to be one of Spidey's biggest detractors. Either way, Octavius tells him that because of the time during Superior Spider-Man where Dr. Octopus was inhabiting Peter Parker's body, he had a long time to absorb Peter Parker's memories, his upbringing, on top of the fact that he already had a thing for Aunt May. This just cemented it even more. So he had to do it. The die was already cast. Regardless of anything, the score is settled. All the animosity that they've ever had with each other since the beginning, done. Doc Ock is officially okay in Spider-Man's book. Osborn makes another mad dash across town to Alchemax to claim his prize from Liz Allen, but she has thrown a monkey wrench into Osborn's program. She couldn't sign the company over to him even if she wanted to. This is what Osborn has been after this whole time when he took his grandson Normie Osborn from her and Harry. You see, there is absolutely positively no legal way she could actually give it to him, because technically, Alchemax is not hers to give. This is when Osborn reveals to her who he, quoty fingers, used to be, Mason Banks. He knew all this already because he was there when the papers were signed. He knows that the one sole beneficiary of Alchemax, should something happen to Liz, is Normie Osborn, and whoever his legal guardian at the time is, and he's prepared to make that something happen to Liz right now. We get to see an unexpected save from out of nowhere, not from Spider-Man, nor Silk, nor Miles, but from Harry Osborn, riding his own Goblin glider, no costume, and a squad of mechs behind him. This buys Harry the time he needs to save his family, including Goblin Child, desperately trying to fight back against his own father, using the symbiote to slice back at him. But the turning point comes when Norman throws Liz out a plate glass window. Shades of Gwen Stacy. This turns everything around. Harry flips out, and Goblin Child has a look of genuine concern on his face, even while wearing the symbiote. Fortunately, Spidey's there for the save, and Norman tries to take out his own grandson, now turned on him because mom's rule, grandpa's drool, usually. And Norman actually raises a hand to Normie, an axe to be fair, but fortunately Spidey and Harry form a 1-2 punch combo that should be all too familiar to Norman Osborn's Green Goblin days, with Harry sending his Goblin glider crashing into Norman, impaling him. This is still not enough to stop the Red Goblin, and they take the fight out into the streets, but Osborn has been playing a different game. The long game. He reveals that the barbs he used to hurt MJ, Silk, Miles, Clash, Aunt May, even Harry, whose own son Normie, still fighting back against the Goblin Child symbiote that's also shooting these same barbs into him as well. Red Goblin controls all of it, and at his command, he can send each of those barbs through the bodies of anyone hit by them and have the barb pierce straight into their brains. he can take out Spidey's entire spider family in one fell swoop. And he raises his hand, delivering a finger snap that would make even Thanos proud. But then there's nothing. Osborn knows something is wrong. Flash Thompson found the barbs early on, and he removed them all using his anti-venom symbiote, like a good cleric. And with their friends healed, Flash Thompson is here to help Spidey take the fight to Red Goblin. But Flash isn't 100%, but that doesn't matter because as far as he's concerned, he's helping his best friend and childhood hero in this fight. With Spidey tangled up with the Goblin Glider, Red Goblin is free to wreak havoc on Agent Venom. Osborn is still burned by the touch of the anti-venom symbiote, but he doesn't care. He embraces it because he still has the Goblin suit on under the symbiote, and he recoils it to use his shock gauntlets, essentially giving Flash Thompson the Green Goblin equivalent of the electric chair. This causes Spidey and the symbiote to fly into a rage because both the suit and Peter Parker lost a dear friend. Their rage turns Spidey into a more Venom-like appearance, increasing his muscle mass, boosting his speed, and apparently giving him the trademark Venom tongue and maw of teeth. But something's wrong. He's not acting like Eddie Brock Venom. He seems more like Mac Gargan Venom, a monster, unhinged, uncontrollable, declaring he'll kill Norman Osborn as he decks Osborn into the cheap seats and demands to eat his brains. And with the last few breaths that Flash can muster, he tells Spidey, "Don't let the rage take you, and don't let it infect the symbiote either. That symbiote has the capacity for good and has changed for the better. Don't be the reason it turns back to evil." He talks Spidey down, but there's nothing Spidey can do for Flash. He's gone. When Osborn lands, a couple blocks away I may add, he finds a golden opportunity when he kills a person cosplaying as Spider-Man. He realizes he never had to go through all this trouble. He never had to hurt Parker's loved ones to get back at him. Spider-Man is such a soft touch. He didn't need Aunt May, MJ, 3J, Robbie Robertson, Flash Thompson. He could kill anyone. And the one thing that would hurt Parker more than killing his loved ones would be killing everyone. He begins unloading Red Goblin bombs left and right, targeting any and everyone within a block. And while Spidey is distracted trying to save the citizens in the crossfire, Osborn attacks and he now has Spidey dead to rights. Because he knows that even with all that great power and great responsibility, Parker doesn't have it in him to do what it takes to get the job done, even though he has the power of Venom behind him, and that's kill. Something Osborn clearly has no issue doing. And now that he has Parker down for the count, he declares himself Norman Osborn victorious. And it was right here, at this moment, Spider-Man realized Norman fucked up. Spider-Man figured out the Red Goblin weakness, something that he kind of suspected when Flash got a hold of him. See, it wasn't just the anti-venom suit. There was a psychosis to it. There was a pathos to this. And of course, Peter Parker knows Norman Osborn better than anyone. The Red Goblin weakness isn't fire, it isn't sound, it isn't another symbiote. And it isn't some grand scheme to trick Norman Osborn. You see, you don't need that. Red Goblin's weakness is vanity. Norman Osborn isn't Quooty Fingers winning this fight. Norman Osborn isn't Quooty Fingers beating Spider-Man. Carnage and Cletus Cassidy are. Everyone will know when it's all said and done that Green Goblin never could cut the mustard. He needed Carnage to get the job done. And this just will not do. And Spider-Man convinces Osborn to fight one last time. This time, no gimmicks, no special suits, no symbiotes. Just Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin, the way God intended. They start beating the brakes off of each other, with Spidey finally getting the edge once he sees in his head all the death and destruction Norman Osborn has caused him and his friends and family. He brings Osborn down, leaving him a wasted wreck. until the Carnage symbiote comes racing back to Osborn. But Spidey intervenes, igniting a gas tank to cause an explosion that destroys Carnage. And with Carnage destroyed, Osborn is left with a brain made of jelly. Because of their symbiotic bond, any harm that comes to Carnage, whether it be pain or death, affects the host. And the host, in most cases, does not survive. When the dust settles and all the smoke is cleared, one man approaches to set everything done wrong to rights. J. Jonah Jameson. And he's not here for jokes. He's not here for front page exclusives. He's not even here for pictures. Pictures of Spider-Man! He's here for one thing and one thing only. To end Norman Osborn once and for all. It's his own fault Norman found out Peter Parker's identity and was able to cause this much havoc for Peter Parker and his family. J. Jonah Jameson feels, no. He knows he must do this. He has to make things right by pulling the trigger and ending the madman who's plagued them both, so Spider-Man doesn't have to get his hands dirty. But Spider-Man takes the bullet, reminding 3J that with great power comes great responsibility to everyone, even the worst of us. Norman Osborn, still with the mind of a jar of Smuckers, is locked up in Ravencroft, the Marvel Universe equivalent of Arkham Asylum. Osborn doesn't remember anything, not even Spider-Man's true identity as Peter Parker. In fact, he thinks Spider-Man is Norman Osborn. But I'm willing to gamble with his connection to the Carnage symbiote and their bonding, and then its sudden destruction severing that bond, an act known to render most people comatose or worse. I think old Stormin' Norman isn't pretending to be Cletus Cassidy. I think Cletus was still in there, in the symbiote, and Norman just got a big dose of Cletus. Speaking of symbiotes, Harry and Liz are at Alchemax Labs doing everything they can to help Normie lose the symbiote without killing him, which they managed to do, but they didn't get all of it. Goblin Child is still in there, and he's just hiding out until he finds his moment to strike again. When that will be, only time will tell, but I have a feeling that much like his Pop, he's playing the long game. And now that all accounts are settled, there's only one thing left to do. The funeral for Flash Thompson. This one is such a bittersweet affair because Flash Thompson was one of those characters that, much as Betty Brant and Peter eloquently say, was a person who was not just a high school football star, he wasn't just a son and a brother, and he wasn't just the head of the Spider-Man fan club. He was the big man on campus. He was a Purple Heart recipient, a gym teacher, a corporal, a foot soldier, a hero, and he was a friend. And Peter Parker does something that I don't think enough people do when people die. And it's something that I've even been guilty of a time or two, but have promised never to do again. When someone dies, we usually tend to ignore their darkest qualities. But Peter Parker, he embraces them. He begins to compliment Flash, but then he quickly turns it around and says that Flash was a bully. He was Peter Parker's bully. But Peter Parker doesn't use this to damn Flash Thompson. No. He points out that bullies start somewhere. Someone hurt them first. And that Peter Parker never knew all these years that Flash Thompson was just as hurt and bullied as Peter Parker was. And that the one thing that gave Flash Thompson hope to become a better person was Spider-Man. And as Flash Thompson transitioned into becoming a better person, Peter Parker even remarks that he's found himself to become a bit of a bully now and then himself, making fun of others, poking fun at people, and telling himself that in the end they deserved it. And Peter Parker says that he wants Flash to know that he wants to change himself, because he wants Flash Thompson to be proud of him the way that he is proud of Flash Thompson. And that of all the times they shared, there was one thing Peter Parker never told Flash Thompson: that he was Flash Thompson's #1 fan and the hero that he looked up to. And before Flash is officially laid to rest, Peter Parker realizes 3J is still there. And Peter Parker tells Triple J that he forgives him, that he's made mistakes, that others paid for it, and that sometimes you'll feel the weight of these things forever. But if Flash Thompson were here, he'd forgive you. And more importantly, Peter Parker forgives J. Jonah Jameson for everything. And just when you think you're about to get this sweet, heartfelt moment from J. Jonah Jameson, sirens start going off. And they both take a moment to stare and figure out what's going on. And that's when 3J goes back to classic 3J. And he says, well, what the hell are you doing? Why are you wasting time talking with me? You need to be where you're needed. And we see that relationship that J. Jonah Jameson and Peter Parker have kind of always had, whether they realized it or not. Because whether 3J would admit it, he thinks of Peter Parker as a son. And with this, we bring the end of Amazing Spider-Man number 800. Oh, you thought this was over? Just like any good MCU movie, and maybe even the oddball, not great one, Dan Slott gives us an after-credit stinger in a comic book, something to kind of tease what may be coming soon. And we are taken to the all-new Horizon University in San Francisco. And we see Dr. Max Modell, a character who's been around for a good chunk of Dan Slott's run with Spider-Man. And he's walking someone around the campus, this university which prides itself on technological advancement and getting young minds an opportunity to become the next big inventor. And just who is this guy that he's walking around the campus? It turns out to be a man by the name of Elliot Tolliver. But look a little bit more closely at Elliot Tolliver. This isn't just some random guy. This man is Otto Octavius and apparently still has designs on being the superior Spider-Man. Hopefully this means we'll actually get to see him take a more heroic turn, which I know a lot of people have their issues, or had their issues rather, with Superior Spider-Man when the story arc was first jumping off, but I mean, I gotta admit, man, I would check that shit because that was probably one of the better Spider-Man, like, story arcs in recent memory. Seeing Dr. Octopus wrestle with a conscience, but also take the Spider-Man mantle and make it his own, and in a lot of regards even do a better job than Peter Parker did. It was actually something that if they would have continued it and not brought Peter Parker back, at least not for a long while, man, I would have been fine with it. But anyways, with everything we know coming forward, we know we got Spider-Geddon coming. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Quotey Fingers, Elliot Tolliver, I'm pretty sure him and any other person to have ever donned the mantle of Spider-Man in any corner of the multiverse will be hanging around, pun intended. And with this book, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to be relaunching, I believe, pretty soon. Dan Slott is off the book. Nick Spencer is going to be taking over. And while I do have some reservations about Nick Spencer because I wasn't the hugest fan of Secret Empire, but I also didn't hate it either, I'm curious to see what Nick Spencer does when he's taking on a smaller, more personal story. And I gotta admit, man, Dan Slott, he is, man, he's kind of become the gold standard on how you treat Spider-Man. In the wake of One More Day, he came in with Brand New Day. And even though, yes, he set Spider-Man back, he set the clock back on Peter Parker, so all that had come before had pretty much been rendered null and void for the most part, but he told a story that, man, I don't think anyone else could have told. Whether it was Spider-Man getting his feet back under him and kind of going back to the status quo, or facing off against one of his fiercest foes of all time, or even losing to one of his old nemesis and losing his body to that person. And even that same person taking the Spider-Man mantle and making it his own. And Spider-Man eventually coming back to save the day. Either way, Dan Slott, say what you will about him and whatever is going on in his personal life, I don't really care. Dan Slott wrote the hell out of Spider-Man, both figuratively and literally. But anyways, let me know what you thought about Amazing Spider-Man number 800. Sound off in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Plus Ultra!